Graphing tangent and cotangent are probably the easier of the two, okay? And the period is really, yeah. Okay, so our period is going to be pi divided by b. And you might ask me why that is. Thank you for asking. If you remember, in the first quadrant, both x and y are positive. But what happens in the second quadrant? X is negative and y is positive. Third quadrant, both negative. In the fourth quadrant, y is negative. If you remember, tangent is y divided by x. So if you take y divided by x, do you get a positive or a negative? Positive. How about here? Here? Positive. Here? Negative. So if you remember, for sine was positive, positive, negative, negative. It took a full revolution for it to repeat itself, to go through both positives and both negatives. But here in this situation, positive, negative, it already goes from its positive value to its negative value. So instead of taking 2 pi to cycle, it just takes 1 pi to cycle. And that's why the period for sine is 2 pi divided by b, but tangent is just pi divided by b. I used to do horizontal shifts, and we won't do that anymore. So I will just get rid of that horizontal shift. But the period ends up being pi divided by b for both tangent as well as cotangent, okay? If you flip to your very last page, it should look something like this. If you want to draw your axes in, you sure can. But these are the graphs of sine, cosine, secant, cosecant. These are actually the parent functions. I want you to know I give you this sheet on the test. I even give you this part where it talks about how to graph each one. So all the important pieces of amplitude, absolute value of A, period, 2 pi divided by B, horizontal shift, vertical shift. Those are all pieces that I give to you. Now, does that mean you know how to read it? No. I used Mark as an example the other day. Mark, the first time he tried to solve right triangles, did you know how to do it? No. He had to come and get some help. And after he got some help, he climbed that mountain of confusion. Boom. Now, I could try to provide the tools, but at the end of the day, you got to go through the work to get it. This could be the same thing for this sheet right here. I can give you the tool, but you still have to go through the understanding. Fair enough? So, if you don't know how to read it, make your own. Every once in a while, somebody say, I don't like your sheet of notes. Fine, make your own. You know, if you make one better, go ahead. Why don't you make one better? Because I don't have to. So here we go. Wow, they're just negative people. Just let it be. So here's what I do. I take tangent, and I mark out the period. And the period for tangent is going to be pi. So mark out pi, and mark out negative pi. Now, how many quadrants did it take for tangent to repeat itself? For sine, how many quadrants did it take? 4. Took all 4 quadrants. So we divided sine into 4 parts. For tangent, how many did it take? Just 2. So I take tangent and I divide it into 2 parts. I don't mark the amplitude at all. Okay. And then here's something important that I do. Okay. What is that coordinate in the unit circle? Has an x value and a y value. 1, 0. How about this one? 0, 1. This one? -1, 0. And this one? 0, -1. So if I'm at 0, tangent is y divided by x. What is 0 divided by 1? 0. At pi over 2, or 90 degrees, I do y divided by x. What is 1 divided by 0? If you take 1 and divide it by 0, what do you get? What do we call it? Starts with a U. Undefined. When we have an undefined value, this is new for you, you draw this. It's called a vertical asymptote. An asymptote is a line that the graph approaches, but it never touches, because it's undefined there. I go all the way over to pi. Again, for tangent, I do y divided by x. Y is 0, x is negative 1. 0 divided by negative 1 is 0. And this will repeat itself on the other side as well. Of a vertical asymptote there. I'll have a dot halfway in between. Now, the shape that the graph makes is like this. It follows along the asymptote until it crosses through, and then it follows along the asymptote on the other side. It continues to repeat itself over and over and over again, making that same shape. For the cotangent graph, we're going to have something very similar. The period is pi. So I mark out pi. I divide it in half, because cotangent repeats itself every 2 quadrants. Now, what is the relationship between cotangent and tangent? If I know the tangent value, if tangent is 3 over 5, what's cotangent? 5 over 3. They are reciprocals, right? So for cotangent, instead of taking y divided by x, I take x and divide it by y. So let's try 0 radians. What is 1 divided by 0? Undefined. So I move up to pi over 2. Again, I do x divided by y for cotangent. X is 0. 0 divided by 1, 0. Then I move along to pi. X divided by y. Negative 1 divided by 0, undefined. And sure enough, it will repeat itself on the other side. Cotangent is just slightly different. Instead of starting down and finishing up, it starts up and it finishes down. So, flip it over to the other side, and let's just write down a couple notes. The important thing is you remember where to place the asymptotes. Asymptote is a line the graph approaches. Now we kind of marked 2 spots. We marked dots wherever tangent was equal to 0. That was for 0, it was for pi, it was for 2 pi, so on and so forth. In fact, at all period values is where we mark 0 for pi. We drew vertical asymptotes wherever tangent was undefined. It turned out it was undefined halfway between the period. So what was halfway between 0 and pi? Pi over 2. And that's where it was undefined. Now here's a cool thing. Tangent and cotangent are reciprocals. So this is the big piece you got to get in your mind today, and then we'll be good to go. 0 divided by 1 is what? 0. The reciprocal of that is 1 divided by 0. That is undefined. So 0 and undefined are reciprocals of each other. So wherever tangent is equal to 0, that's where cotangent is undefined. And wherever tangent is undefined, that's where cotangent is equal to 0. So in other words, cotangent is undefined at the period, and it's equal to 0 halfway in between. So let's do 4 examples on the previous side. We'll call her quits. Let's start by identifying the period. In order to find the period, do I take 2 pi divided by b, or do I take pi and divide it by b? Which one? Pi divided by b. What is your b value? Pi. Pi divided by pi is 1. Mark 1. Mark -1. How many quadrants do I divide it into? 2. Tangent repeats itself every 2 quadrants as opposed to every 4. This is the key. Is tangent equal to 0 at the period, or is it undefined at the period? Which one was it? Is tangent equal to 0 at the period or undefined? It's equal to 0 at all the period spots. So every time I move 1 unit, I put a dot. That's where it's going to be equal to 0. It's undefined halfway in between. What do I draw when it's undefined? Yep, an asymptote. Does tangent start down and finish up, or start up and finish down? Starts down and finishes up. Next one, period. Pi divided by what? Pi divided by 1 is pi. I mark out pi. I divide it in half. You tell me what to do next. Where? Good, excellent, because pi is equal to 0 at the period. Now what do I do? You're on a roll. Take me through. I already know how to do all the problems, so it does no good for me to talk it through. Somebody else talk it through. What do I do? The asymptotes. It's halfway in between. Do you think that this graph will start down and finish up, or start up and finish down? Why will it start up and finish down? Because the negative sign will do a vertical flip. The 2 creates a vertical stretch, which we don't really have to show. So it doesn't really matter whether it's a 2 or a 3 or a 4. Never mind that. But do mind that it is negative. So it'll create a vertical flip. So instead of starting down and finishing up, it'll start up and finish down. So that is important. Thank you, Maddie. Excellent job. Two more. Now I have cotangent. I take pi and divide it by, what is the number in front of x? 1 divided by 4. How do I take pi and divide it by 1/4? What is the reciprocal of 1/4? So I get 4 pi. Period is 4 pi. I mark off 4 pi. I divide it into 2 parts. Now, do I put dots at 4 pi, 0, and negative 4 pi? Or do I put asymptotes? Yes, because that's how cotangent and tangent are different. Tangent would be equal to 0 at those spots. But cotangent is the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 0 is undefined. So I draw vertical asymptotes at those spots because that's where it's undefined. Halfway in between is where it will be equal to 0. Does cotangent start down and finish up, or start up and finish down? Then my last example. Period is pi divided by what? Pi over 3. So I will say pi over 1 divided by pi over 3. And in that case, I will multiply by the reciprocal. And what do you get? 3. Divide it in half. 3 over 2. Dots or asymptotes? What do I start with? Asymptotes. It's equal to 0 halfway in between. Will this graph start down and finish up, or start up and finish down? Start down and finish up because cotangent wants to start up and finish down, but due to the negative sign, it will start down and it will finish up. Very good. This can be a very, very quick assignment for you. I know you're saying I only have 15 minutes left. Trust me, you could get it done during class. It's not that big of a deal. Okay, I'll put your assignment on the board. Okay, here is your assignment. You can see 6 problems. Trust me, you can get it done during the course of this hour. It literally took us about 4 minutes to graph those last 4. You got 10 minutes here, and this will be the easiest of the graphs that we have. Tomorrow we'll graph secant and cosecant. You'll have a work day on that on Friday. You're looking at a test next week, approximately Wednesday. That will be, again, the highest scoring test of the semester that you have. You want to do well on that one. Trust me, the 2 tests after that are significantly more challenging. So you want to do well on this one to buffer your grade for the other 2. Okay? I'll try to make the other 2 as easy as possible, but without a doubt, the content is more difficult. So.